Hey, Jeremy here with the Practical IT channel. Today we're taking a look at Linux Mint 20.1 beta. This is the Cinnamon edition. I've got it installed. I've got guest editions installed in VirtualBox. And so we're just going to play with the desktop a little bit, look at a few things, and run our Lynis security scan. Let's see how things turn out with this new edition of Linux Mint beta. All right, we are on the desktop. I've only made a few minor tweaks to this install. I've played with the colors for the icons a little bit, and I have also turned off the asterisks for the passwords in the terminal. So let's jump in and let's go ahead and do Lynis first. Make this large enough so everybody can see it, because that's one of my biggest pet peeves with other YouTube creators, is that they don't increase their font size so people can actually have a chance of reading this, whether they're on a TV or on a phone. Usually for desktop it's okay, but hey, you know, not everybody is using a desktop these days. We are going to do git clone GitHub sysify Lynis, and that'll just take a moment. Okay, so we've got a list of our files in this folder. So we're going to say sudo /Lynis audit system. Enter our password. And it's giving us a warning, and we're going to go ahead and hit enter. And the reason for the warning is just that we just downloaded this and it's running from a user folder instead of being moved to a more permanent location on the file system. So that's a step for a different day. We will swing around and look at that in another video at some point. But this is going to give us just sort of a baseline and tell us some things that we can do to improve on our security of this particular install. Now, it's worth pointing out, this is a beta version. Nothing that you see here is set in stone, and this does not reflect in any way the final version that will come out in a few months, and where the security levels might be on that. This is just a baseline representing a point in the development cycle, and just to give us a starting point to start locking things down a little bit more. Also keep in mind, some of these long execution time warnings are at least in part because I'm running it in a VM, and I have not seen these same issues when I'm running on a physical machine. You know, your mileage may vary. This is just a representation of what this particular VM is doing at this particular point in the development cycle. So once we get done with this, we will jump and look at a few other things. It's also worth noting, as this is finishing up, that I did just do the basic install, and that all of the files for the system are on a contiguous root partition. I did not separate things out into separate partitions. So that's something that Lynis will normally complain about, and so it looks like our hardening index is a 62, which is not awful, but it's not great. And so let's come back up here and take a look at some things that they might want us to address. Okay, so obviously enabling the firewall. Password on the Grub bootloader. Again, I've said this in previous videos, I don't do this on VMs. hardening system services, consider explicit disabling of core dumps, PAM configuration, password hashing, more PAM module stuff, password aging. Again, if you're on a system that you're personally using at home, probably not the biggest issue. If you are using this in an organization, then of course you want to comply with the password policies that you have in place and change these settings to match. Okay, default UMask in Etsy login defs could be more strict. And again, here's the three. To decrease impact of full/home file system, place/home on a separate partition, along with temp and var. All should be on their own partitions. Again, for a home system, not completely necessary. Consider disabling unused kernel modules. Disable drivers like USB storage when not used. So again, that may not be a big deal on a home system. On a server, yes, absolutely. On a home system, probably not something you want to do. There are some protocols that may not be needed. Cups configuration, access, logging, some banners for legal compliance, process accounting, enabling Systat for accounting, audit D for audit information. Again, these are more server oriented, more organization, business oriented. Harden the system by installing at least one malware scanner, not a bad idea. So this hardening index score is not the end of the world. It's absolutely something that can be built upon. Again, as I said in the beginning, this is a point of reference, a starting point, something to build upon. And the other thing to keep in mind is this is a general set of tests, and you can disable tests in Lynis if you so desire, so that they don't run and they're not counted against you in future runs. So again, this is something that I've been using as an out-of-the-box approach. It should be tailored to your specific needs. Part of the reason I'm doing this is to increase awareness because, you know, security is a big deal. There are breaches happening all the time. Again, probably not something that you're worried about at home. System settings. Blow this up full screen. All right, so again, this is sort of splitting the difference between Windows and macOS as far as the number of applets available for doing things. We can look at the firewall right off. And we can see the status. This is turned off, so we could turn that on and, you know, just go that first step towards having Lynis a little bit happier. I'm going to skip this for the moment, but, you know, this is pretty clean. This is something that is easy enough for people making a transition from either macOS or Windows to feel fairly at home with. Now, granted, this is more, you know, macOS style or old school Windows style, where when control panel existed, and at the same time, this is pretty logically laid out. We've got all kinds of pictures here. These are included by default, you know, and there are a few other backgrounds. This one's kind of interesting. That is a pretty huge picture. Maybe that'll scale down. Let's see. And they did scale it down to match the resolution. That's pretty cool. All right, so basic things like backgrounds, it's pretty obvious. There's a general, and again, this is for compositor. We've got some of this stuff turned off. So it gives you the option for the VSync method of presentation time, swap, throttling, fallback, and none. I'm not going to mess with that right now because things are working all right for a VM. Let's see. Let's look at desktop. This gives you the option of turning default icons on and off. I don't personally like the idea of computer. And honestly, let's turn off network drives, but let's turn off mounted drives, but turn on network. So if we do that, you'll see that we just have 2 folders on the desktop. Network is going to list out a list of shares that the system has found on the network. If we go to Serial Killer, given the way I've got things configured, it automatically lets you see the folders that are on this machine. However, when you go into those folders, it will prompt you for a password. You can try anonymous, but again, this is going to be one of those things about how your particular machine is set up. And then from here, you can go into individual folders and see what's available. This is an old backup that I did years ago. And once I do one last sweep through some of the stuff on there, I will likely be able to get rid of it. Anyways, the idea being you can access SMB shares on the network. Now, if you are running a network that is solely Linux based, or Linux and Unix and other Unix like system based, you do have the option of using NFS, Network File System, instead of SMB or SAMBA. All right. So we've looked at different pieces of this Linux Mint beta. Let's look at something else. So just to round this out, we'll look at a few other things that are included with the beta version of Mint Cinnamon 20.1. So Firefox is installed as the default browser, which is typical for a Linux distribution. Just for the sake of argument, we will come down here and go to Help and About Firefox. And this is the current version 84. And so that's great. Some of the other items that are included. For graphics, we've got a document scanner, drawing program, LibreOffice Draw, and Pix, which is a program that will let you view and organize files. I have not yet played with this particular program, but that looks pretty typical for a file organizer type program for photos. We have for internet Firefox, Hex Chat, Thunderbird for email transmission, which is a torrent client, and then web apps, where you can run websites as if they were apps. Under Office, we've got Calendar, we've got the LibreOffice apps. I do have LibreOffice 7.1 beta installed on this. So I actually need to check and see if there's an update to that available for the app image. Sound and video, Audacity, of course, Celluloid, which is a video viewer, Cheese, which is similar to Photo Booth on the Mac, Hypnotix, allows you to watch TV, and Rhythmbox. Let's take a quick look at Hypnotix. I'm just curious. TV channels. Well then, this is pretty interesting here. We are presented to start with TV channels available in different countries. Take a look at Roku USA. This is pretty slick. Game Show Central. See if that actually loads. So we've got TV channels. We can look at different countries. And this wants to settle down. Go full screen again. Let's see. Let's say we'll go look at Plex USA. There's supposed to be 130 channels. And so there's all kinds of stuff listed over here on this left hand side. Scrolling isn't working as smoothly as I'd like to see, but hey, this is a beta version, and I believe this program is pretty new. It's probably a pretty low version number. It's still a little flaky, if you ask me. Version 1.4. Could be the VM. I will concede that it very well might be the VM. But this is kind of cool for something a little bit different on Linux and opening up some new uses. And hopefully we can get rid of this. Okay, so let's come back here. Administration, you have pretty similar things to most other operating systems. You've got a backup tool. Pull this up full screen. And this is cool because you can back up personal data. Where do you want to place it? We could even put this on the network, which is cool. But it also lets you back up your software selection. Now this is pretty cool for desktop users of Linux. You know, it pulls everything that's installed and it will be able to duplicate this if you reinstall the system, or if you want to not necessarily do cloning, but do a fresh install of Mint on another either physical or virtual machine, and then go about the process of bringing them in sync with each other by using the software restore here. That could be an interesting option. Come back to administration. Of course, we've got disk usage analyzer, driver manager, if you're using proprietary drivers or need to install some, printers, and usually this will pretty much automatically find my network printer, and it does in fact find that. So actually that's a generic. So right here is my brother printer. And so yeah, it just makes this process of installing printers about as easy as it can be. On par with macOS, I would say, and I believe I would have a good argument for the case that it is easier than on Windows. That's fine. And I'm not going to print a test page because I'm 99% sure that's going to work. And this is a VM anyways. We are coming back to administration. We looked at printers. There's the software manager. You've also got Synaptic, package manager, system monitor, system reports, your terminal. TimeShift is the utility that's like TimeMachine on macOS. So you actually get two different backup type tools. All right, we're back at our desktop. At this point, I think I'm going to wrap up this video. This has been a look at the beta version of Linux Mint Cinnamon Edition version 20.1. This is beta 1. All things considered, I'm pretty impressed by this. There are a few rough edges, a few things that slowed the VM down to a crawl or locked it up completely. But since it's a beta, I am not worried about this. I'm not running this as my main desktop. I'm not running it in any sort of production environment. At this point, there is no cause for alarm and every reason to believe that by the time the release version comes out, that some of these little bumps will be ironed out and everything will be good to go as per usual. So with all that in mind, I want to thank you once again for watching. If you haven't taken a moment, please subscribe, please like the video, and click that bell icon for notifications. Feel free to share this video on social media with your friends, colleagues, anybody that might be interested, and help spread the word. I am closing in on the 2,000 subscriber goal, and although I didn't hit it for 2020, it's going to be one of those things I will get out of the way early in January here, and we can keep things moving forward. I've got some excited things planned for the channel this year, so stay tuned. Thank you once again for watching. Happy computing and have a great day.